or I am. I hope you are as well. Mistake number 8 is escalating tensions in your writing when dealing with difficult situations. Because in security, you deal with situations that are difficult quite often. Maybe you're responding to incidents and your client or your employer is stressed out and everything is easily taken problematically and out of context. Or maybe someone is asking you to approve a change that needs to go out tomorrow, but you have no time to review it. And how could they possibly expect you to do this because it's already midnight and you're tired and hungry? My point is, you'll be in plenty of difficult situations, but how you write matters. And so here's an example of a message that I think has a tone that is not very fruitful and instead escalates tensions. Let me pause here for a little bit to let you read this excerpt from an email message to Riley. I have been in situations that warranted this kind of message so often, and I bet you have as well. I remember at one point I was sending some emails requesting an update or an approval for something, and it was just keep getting ignored. But this was so important, and how could they ignore me? And maybe if I yell louder, and maybe I use more capitalization, and maybe I put in more punctuation, maybe now they will pay attention to me. But as much as you want to yell and scream sometimes, unfortunately, that is not always, often. That is rarely the way to actually get your messages heard and noticed. So in this case, you can see the writer is clearly frustrated because his or her writing is being ignored, but the issue is critical and must be addressed. I wash my hands of the situation, you might say. You've been warned. Now it's your problem if the breach happens. Yeah, that is not very productive. How might you rephrase this to carry the same sense of urgency, but maybe be a bit more cool and professional about the situation? Here's my suggestion. Think about what the readers want. Readers want interactions that are constructive and non-confrontational. Constructive means that you want to propose a solution or a step towards a solution that does not overwhelm your reader. And maybe talking about rolling out that huge set of Adobe patches is too much. Maybe that's why your message is being ignored. I don't know. But here's one example. Take a look at this and see if you agree that this is a more constructive way of sending the message. So this is much cooler than the hot message that you saw on the previous slide. Now, it is possible that this message is still going to get ignored because really what is constructive, what is non-confrontational very much depends on the context. And we don't know the full context of this particular story. But what I found is useful is that if 3 of my email messages are getting ignored, then I'm going to follow up with an in-person meeting. I might show up at the person's office or I might start calling them. Now, in this particular case, maybe if it's considered to be too rude in that particular context to call the person unannounced, I'm saying, hey, expect a phone call from me. This is urgent. And I'm trying to also explain that this is not a situation to be feared. I'm here to advise. I have a plan for something that will be smooth and quick, and maybe that will help move the conversation forward. So the tone of your communications in challenging situations makes a huge difference. And so you will oftentimes find yourself, as I'm sure you have already, expressing dissatisfaction with the situation or concerns. And my advice is take a moment to cool off. In many cases, you just want to fire off that message on Slack or email right away. And I've done that plenty of times and in most cases regretted it. Take 5 minutes to cool off, gather your thoughts. This will help you remain tactful and courteous in your communications. Now, when you have to criticize, because I'm sure sometimes people will do things that they should have known better. They made a mistake maybe, or, well, anyway, avoid confronting the person because then they will become defensive and then tension will just escalate. Instead, criticize the action or the situation, not the doer, not the person. That tends to be faced with less resistance. If necessary, explain the negative consequences of what was done or what wasn't done rather than the action itself that you're criticizing. That makes it easier for you to phrase your words in a way that what you're giving is a critique rather than a personal assault. And of course, clarify, what do you want? It's not enough to just say, I'm angry, you suck. Instead, be tactful and courteous, criticize the situation, don't attack the user or the reader rather, and clarify. So what do we do now? What will we be doing now to move the situation forward now that we're in this bad state? Clarify the steps. And this wraps up the mistake number 8, which was escalating tensions in difficult situations.